Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the series of Fortunate Events podcast brought to you by who? It's me, Miss Mimi Cherry, and I am joined today by the gorgeous, the super smart, like I love seeing you on Girl Talk, Sissy Slay.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be on here.
Yes, and I know that on your Instagram profile, you describe yourself as an Indigecunt and as a two-spirit. I'd love to kick off by getting into that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Two-Spirit is kind of like a term that has kind of been like decided upon by like a majority of American Indians to kind of like give a term that's kind of more like directional, more than definitive, of like where the other genders are. Because for me as an Indigenous person, like me being two-spirit is cisgender, because there is no transgender in like Indigenous culture, because you already are you. Like nobody has like a monopoly on gender based off of genitalia in Indigenous society.
Okay.
It's like it's your business, you know. Partner preference hasn't been demonized. That came from Christian colonial influences.
Colonizers be colonizing.
Right, and the gender binary too, because there's been so many different lost terms in these Indigenous languages. So for people who aren't what we call now cisgender men and women, two-spirit is kind of like that directional term that's very like contemporary, very diaspora, for people who are gender variants, have multiple gender expressions. So it could be people who are trans-binary, trans-non-binary. It's an umbrella term that I think people need to understand kind of comes before the umbrella terms that people use more commonly, like trans and queer, because the root is in the indigeneity of it all.
Okay.
So for me, Paiute people, Shoshone people, we have two-spirit culture more than two-gender culture. So for me, calling myself the Indigecunt, it's kind of reflective of my indigeneity, my two-spirit nature, as well as my place in the West Coast Kiki ballroom scene. I'm Sissy Slays, the Indigecunt.
Are you like born and raised California Bay Area, or have you bopped around?
Yeah, so I was born in Reno, Nevada. Nevada is mostly a lot of like former Paiute Nation territory. There are a few other tribes, but for the most part, the Paiute Nation was most of Nevada, a little bit of each of the bordering states, even up into Idaho. I come from the northern band of Paiutes. There's the southern band, there's the central band, and there's the northern band. So I come from the northern Paiutes, which for the most part is located in northern Nevada. I grew up on the Walker River Paiute Reservation. And then when my father passed away, who's native Paiute Shoshone, I moved with and lived with my mother, who is a white Welsh Scandinavian woman, who lives near the reservation, but she lives in a different town. But I've been in California since 17 when I graduated high school, and just been on a really, really long 3-day weekend since 2009.
Not a really long 3-day weekend.
I came out just to visit my best friend from high school. I remember I moved out the day after I graduated. And I was staying on a different reservation with my indigenous family. And yeah, I went to go see my best friends who were living in Sacramento at the time. And I don't know. Sometimes I can come off a little reserved, but I'm pretty social and I'm pretty good at meeting people and talking. So I met just a whole new cast of characters and friends, and I ended up just staying in my friends. I gave them the keys to my place, and they just brought all my stuff to California, and I have not moved back. I've never been back in Nevada. Uh,
Wow.
well, I've been back in Nevada, but like I never moved. Like I've never lived there again. Yeah. So I was in Sacramento for 2 years, and I've been in the Bay since August 2011. So it just
Wow.
celebrated 9 years.
Wow. How did you get introduced into the ball culture, and like what does being a part of that culture mean to you?
Yeah. So for me, ballroom was something that, well, I guess, let's see. It all started when I met Jacques Whitfield and Deshaun Boyce, also known as DJ Spider. Those are my ballroom parents. A friend of mine, Christopher Ruffin, who also goes by the name Fox, DJ Fox, he and I used to hang out a lot. Probably like 4 or 5 years, no, like 6 years ago. And I remember I'd come over and we'd hang out when both of our boyfriends were like away at work or whatever. And we'd put on his 2 pairs of heels that he had, and we would just start walking back and forth in the apartment playing different music. And he was like, "You need to come meet my friend Jacques, and you need to come to Vogue and Tone. I've been wanting to go, but it'd be easier if someone came with me." And I remember one time we were in the Castro and we walked past Q Bar, and that's when I ended up meeting Jacques, was just outside on the street, on Castro Street, while he was talking to me.
Oh, back when we could do
Uh,
that.
I know. Like when I talk about it, it seems normal, but then when I like hear myself talk about it afterwards, I'm like, yeah, those things don't happen anymore. Um, but yeah, so I met Jacques, who does Vogue and Tone. My mother, DJ Spider Ebony. Um, they have like regularly helped like co-facilitate the class with him. And after going a couple times, none of my friends were still sticking through with me, so it was just me. And then my mother, DJ Spider, was like, before she was my mother, she had approached me after class, and she was like, I see something in you. I would love to turn you out. I would love to be your mother. Like, how do you feel about that? And I didn't really know anything about ballroom or house or anything. I just saw the movement and felt like pulled towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Vogue specifically inside a ballroom has been such a like decolonizing force for myself as a two-spirit, as a queer person. So it's meant a lot to me. It's given me space that even my tribe is still trying to remember a lot of its culture and trying to understand places for people like myself that have already existed. And because of that decolonization process, there's a lot of gender roles forced on me growing up. So as much as I've wanted to be in tribal dance and like formal dance, I never did, because it was always like I always had to play this boy role.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something like I denounce. Like I don't not see myself as a boy. I just don't see myself. I don't know. There's different sides of my like
You seem
character
like
that
somebody that doesn't want to be boxed in.
yeah. There's just I don't know. I know myself and like what parts of myself are looking for and seeking expression. And for me, dance was always something where like there was a feminine aspect that was trying to be expressed, and that's something Vogue and my ballroom parents and ballroom as an entire community and culture gave me. So from that moment on, not only was I like training to like be able to perform alongside my parents, which isn't something most children in ballroom do. They're
Mm-hmm.
usually getting raised and prepared to walk the categories at the balls, which I was that was happening, but my parents are so booked that they wanted me to be able to perform with them. They wanted me
Yeah.
to push myself harder so that I could be traveling with them, so I could get booked. Which is great because that turned into my livelihood, you know. I take care of myself because of what my community has given me. So from that moment on, that's when my mother wanted to throw her first ball, and she wanted myself and my sister at the time um, to be the like organizers, you know, while she was directing the overall production of everything. So that's how I started, not just as like a performer. Well, I mean, as a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been performing as a writer and a poet, but as a dancer, it was a whole new world. And my mother wanted me to know how to provide a space, not just participate in the space. So to know how to do all of it, you know, be behind the scenes, be on the stage, be.
Mm-hmm.
She's taught me, yeah, how to be a judge on the panel. She's taught me how to be on the mic, talking to people. She's
I
taught
remember
me,
last year's
yeah,
Oaklash after Kiki. I was looking over the pictures now.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was such an interesting project because things were just constantly changing on myself and Mama Celeste, and the night ended up being like flawless. It was so packed at Port Bar. I'd never
What?
seen it so busy.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, people had a lot of fun, and it was a lot of work. And some of my work I just had to like trash and start from scratch based off of like the venue changing, based off of collaborators weaving in and out of like commitments. So yeah, it was still a lot of fun. But yeah, ballroom event organizing in general is no joke.
It's
Community
no
organizing is
joke.
no joke. It's not something to be taken lightly, but it's definitely something I think everyone should get involved in. Even if you might not feel your like leadership, everyone has like an example that others can lead from, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to be at the head of things, but there's always something that we can learn from each other.
Of
So
course. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of what along the way has become my purpose with this. I call it a silly little show, but I kind of do that as like a self-deprecation, blah, blah, blah. But, I do take it, like, I have a lot of pride in
yes.
amplifying the voices that I do. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I feel like sometimes with whatever we're working on, we'll sometimes like we want other people to know what we think on the inside, whether it's like a little raw or self-deprecating, like you said. So we'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know it's not the best," or like, "I know we're only like, partway to like our actual like end goal of whatever the project is or whatever." But yeah, I feel like I'm also at this point in my life where I'm trying not to do that. I'm realizing that like sarcasm is a thing of the past, whether it's like inner sarcasm or working with your friends. Like I know there's moments where you want to say something a little like silly, but now in like this day and age it just feels like I don't know, like I've always been such a tough love kind of person, but
Yeah.
like I've yeah, the necessity for kindness has never been more like paramount, and like
Yes.
it's like even us sassy girls are learning to like tenderize. So yeah.
Aww.
I'm like, "Yeah, don't fuck with me still."
Oh no! Oh,
That's
we're gonna
you.
get into a few things, but I first of all, there's something that you mentioned that I'm like, it clicked something in my brain that I didn't know how to express it. But you mentioned, being a poet and a writer. It
Yeah.
clicked something in my brain because I'm always very impressed with, and again, no diss to nobody, but with your grasp of language, the way that you express yourself. You're very the choices you make in words sometimes, or how to express yourself. Like, it's one of the reasons why I love having you on Girl Talk. When you guys had the people that were pitching themselves for, was it like the community board?
Oh God. Yeah.
I love how at one point you were like, we've heard it from you already. Can we hear from the other people? And
Because
you were asking some tough
that
questions.
person was, the questions were valid, but that person was trying to answer other. I literally, we were running out of time. I was just trying to ask each of them one specific question because I felt like there needed to be a side engaged with that wasn't just the side they were comfortable with and had prepared presenting to everybody. You know,
You
you
wanted
get
to
and
go beyond the pitch.
yeah, you get, yes, 100%. I wanted to kind of expose the like the vulnerabilities and like catch the contrast between each of the candidates in that way, because I feel like people trust vulnerable people more often than they trust somebody who's just like appearing to be unrealistically poised or in control. Or so to see how, honestly, just seeing how people dealt with the question, like the answer meant something. I did ask specific questions, but like just seeing how people like handle
Mm-hmm.
those kind of moments is very interesting to me, and I think other people deserve to like see those reactions in like real time as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What's been your favorite part of partnering up with the girls for Girl Talk?
I love, I really like the creative like control and freedom that I have to, you know, speak on whatever I would like to. I'm usually the one that's facilitating who we book next, which is nice because I've worked along so many different writers and speakers and community leaders to where it's just really nice to already have all these conversations that I'm looking forward to having, and then being like,
Yeah.
oh, let's do it in front of everyone so that like people can like understand like how people in charge like in the community are like talking to each other. So there's a little bit more transparency about like the things that like are discussed that aren't just like, there's a lot of things and a lot of dialogue that happens before just like the voting and the politics of things. It all starts with like the community and the humanity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
um
Or at least it should.
Exactly. And I feel like that's a big part for me being so like actively, but like, and maybe sometimes aggressively, but like I'm really dedicated to like decolonizing like myself and the world around me. Just because I know that this doesn't work. And I think whenever you look around or look inside, there's just, there's too many examples of why. Um, and I really appreciate what you said about like, you know, my word choice and like how I like choose to, like I'm very deliberate with how I talk
Yes, you are.
and the things that I say. So I feel like it's really important to have that sort of decisiveness and preciseness and like um that conviction when I speak, because it gives other people kind of like a room to be inspired by like, I can actually like put my feet down and like mean what I'm saying. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
okay not to just choose A or B from a list of other people's perspectives. Like you can think for yourself, you can speak for yourself. But it's all muscle memory, right? So it's like you have to engage your mind, you have to engage
Mm-hmm.
people with your voice. You have to be willing to like, you know, be loud and stick out even when it's uncomfortable or isolating. And it can definitely be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I speak ahead of the time that we're speaking in, and people sometimes don't like understand what I'm saying until
Well, it's
the
called
it
being an oracle.
already happens.
That's what oracles are, you know?
Yeah. So and like, I mean, I guess for myself and my family, like that is a big part of us is like dream culture and dream work. I guess we're not so like on the nose cinematic with calling ourselves oracles,
Yeah.
but it definitely has always like been in that direction of people's understanding at least.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, to dig into a little bit of Oaklash, so we talked about last year's after Kiki. That was amazing. You guys had like a ball walk-off competition.
Yeah, it was basically like a mini function, not quite a ball, but and it's something pretty popular in ballroom is people like to have like aftermath functions, aftermath little mini balls or battles and categories that aren't just the main event balls that happen in the weekends. So there's been a couple things like that that have happened in the Bay. So it was cool to do something that like paid respect to ballroom, but also at the time was very specific to like Oaklash. I thought it was great to have a virgin drag category and
Yes.
see people win things that were like crucial for like an up and coming drag performer to have a brand new wig, and some money.
Yes.
Money always helps a new queen. And then having space for the more developed runway walkers and drag queers to come out and
Yes.
so yeah, it was a lot of fun. And my father Jacques got on the mic. Me and me and Clark are comfortable hosting, but it's kind of when Jacques and Star, like people who like are vocal artists
Yes.
are
Yes.
like
Yes. Yes.
wanting to get on the mic and hype. I was just like, we've done so much work for this event. Let us just sit back.
Yeah, no, I can even see the progression in the pictures that I took. Like you can see when you
Right.
guys are on mic, and then you can see the transition.
Right, yeah, and I feel like, yeah, I really do like working with Jacques on a lot of different things, and I've booked them to be the commentator at our balls a couple times,
Nice.
and yeah, he's been one of our guests on Girl Talk, and so was Star, who
Hmm.
was the
Hmm. Hmm.
other friend of mine who was on the mic.
Yeah, yeah, I caught both of those.
Yeah.
So fast forward, we are now in 2020, motherfucking 2020, where hindsight is not even a concept right now. Oaklash went digital.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was at the live venue here in Oakland because I was taking pictures again this year, and I was
Mhm.
watching Girl Talk on my phone, and you guys
Mhm.
were wrapping up, and I'm taking screenshots just because you guys were having so much fun, right? Like sometimes I like taking screenshots of Girl Talk, and all of a sudden there's this one picture of you just perfectly turned around, pushing Twitch's limits. And I on the prize commented under that, that's when Twitch started tripping. So you
Yeah.
totally kept the punk fuck you spirit ultimately of drag alive. Earlier in that afternoon, I was asking Nikki if we were waiting till the very last number to show whole so that we wouldn't get shut down. But the fact that we were already on Zoom at that point, it was like, well, whole.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm definitely in like the drag performer, drag queer world, but I've always just felt like a very outspoken stripper that hangs out with the drag queens and
Yeah.
drag kings. Because I feel like that's kind of what I've brought, like for better or worse. I don't know. I Sissy Slays and Indigecunt, like always about decolonizing. So even if I'm on stage, like I want to celebrate me for who I am, a body that is like freeing itself of conformist influences, celebrating like the parts of myself that haven't been
Yeah.
colonized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, even when it's something as simple as just like being like pretty much naked except for like body jewelry and heels, like
And the
and
most sheer
sleeveless on.
bodysuits ever.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me happy and like just knowing like I always had to pull inspiration from everybody else. I always had to like dilute it to like fit me. So just knowing, I don't know, like I think it'll be cool for people to be like, there was already a bitch that did all that. Like, I think that'll be great. I want to be I want to be just somebody that like helps inspire people to give themselves permission to be
Yes.
themselves, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Oh,
Like I don't want to make
absolutely.
any specific influence on them besides just people giving themselves permission to be, so because
Yeah.
everything that I am has come from me saying yes to myself.
Well, I will tell you that I appreciate it because, I've gone through my journeys of like, growing up, one way and then finding a certain lifestyle when you are free enough to do it. But then that kind of becomes oppressive in its weirdness because you're kind of just basically fulfilling the patriarchy's, dream of you. And so then you reject that. And so then, but you're like, wait, but I kind of was like, there was some fun in there along the way too.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to figure out what it is you want to do when like success is built off of like how can you quantify an experience into a profit.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't really, it just, and I don't necessarily have issue with that. I think the only thing that I notice is like dangerous and harmful is when people believe that like they do those things in a way where it's happening and they are existing separately from other people, as if those moments exist in like a world not attached to the rest. So that's when things get, I just noticed the risk of situations and like
Oh
thought
yeah.
processes like that.
Oh yeah.
'Cause it's, yeah,
Oh yeah. Deconstructing compartmentalization that you didn't even choose to create in your own self along the way because you were
right.
doing things to fucking survive
It's
is a trip.
yeah, it's kind of hard to. I mean, that's the thing too. Is like I'm thankful for like a natural capacity I have to like heal and decolonize myself, but it is really fucked up to think of people who like don't have that same natural capacity. Where yeah, like I I'm able to like figure out and rediscover and like understand ways in which the things I've experienced in life have either contributed to my development or have actually like prolonged the like lack of development in different
Mm-hmm.
areas.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't really want to admit things like that because everyone's like, well, I'm grown or I'm this age and I've done this for how many years. But it's like there's some things, regardless of how like much you specialize in one direction, there's like things that are usually not getting attention still. So for me, I guess my voice and my ability to like engage with people has really helped me like develop things that I feel like a late bloomer a lot when it comes to different things, like socially interacting with people that are like me. I
Me
feel like
too.
I know how to like talk to people not like me more than I know how to talk to my own community.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why, this whole process has been really important. Um, and I also didn't really know that like I I talk a lot. I've always gotten in trouble for talking in school. Like I'm like the most talkative, quiet person ever, and it doesn't really make sense, but
I get it. I totally get it.
I never really thought like, oh yeah, like I never thought I'm good at talking, And when somebody like said that to me, I was just like, oh wow, like I should talk and like, my maybe that's my craft, maybe that's my talent is literally just like having conversations with people. Um and it's something that I love to do. So yeah, and it's weird that like there's some things that like they can like run a little like parallel with your natural inclinations of what you're passionate about or what you want to develop. Um, but I guess taking like the patience to really find out what exactly that is instead of just diving into like some sort of like scripted rite of passage to like get to the like most common publicly held perception of what that goal is supposed to look like in the
Mhm.
image of success. Like it's hard, especially in like the Bay Area where like it feels like the meter is just always running, you know. Yeah, it's taken a lot of faith and a lot of like leaps of faith, not knowing like if you're gonna make it over to that other ledge. But I just feel like things are gonna crumble behind you anyway, so you might
Exactly.
as well just keep moving the fuck forward.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, all we have really is right now. At the end of the day,
Right.
and as long as we're progressing in the now, then we're that much closer tomorrow and that much further away from yesterday. What do you miss the most of like pre-COVID? The social scene and whatnot.
Mm, I miss creating spaces. I miss performing, but I don't know. I guess I don't know. I feel like for me, creating space goes into like places even beyond the ones that I'm like directly curating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I miss, yeah, I miss holding space for people, whether it was in a nightclub, whether it was at the park or the beach. Um, I've I've always been a very like one-on-one person. Um, Crowds I can kind of move in and out of. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I kind of do prefer a more intimate setting, but um, I miss talking to people, whether it's somebody that I knew or somebody new that I just met, and just getting lost in conversation with them. And
Yeah.
like now I have a new friend, and I don't know. I think some of my quietness really comes from just being on the reservation and like indigenous people kind of we talk when there's something to say and
Mm-hmm.
like there's not really a reason to be talking all the time. Which is interesting for someone like myself who talks so much to say, you know. But yeah, I think that's also a big part of my culture is in a lot of indigenous cultures, information exchange, stories being shared, and just getting to like I love finessing my understanding of things. And I feel like
Yeah.
talking to people really helps me. I mean, it helps everyone, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even, to me, conversation means so much because it like can't be one-sided, right? If somebody's talking at you, if you're being like yelled at, like there's things where it's like it obviously is just like one-sided. It's not even dialogue. It's just like words coming at you. There's no consent involved. It's just somebody berating you with remarks.
Yeah.
But like a conversation is like for it to be a conversation, it's consensual, it's mutual, it's connection,
Yeah.
and I find that beautiful, even though we've been forced to like speak in languages that don't belong to the majority of the people who are speaking them now. We're so creative, with the way we have decided to still incorporate our story and our personalities and our spirit into the words that have been forced upon us in like a technical sense, but at the same time everything we touch we're so good at making something original come out of it. And I think that's why people just are so jealous about Black and Indigenous people is they wish that they had that power, and they do. It's just their current power comes from everything rooted in the denial that that thing exists to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like there's they seem to lean in more into the collecting of others versus leaning into self to create something out of self.
Very
You
much.
know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's the thing is like underneath all of this, at the core of white supremacy is actually like a very depressing like inferiority complex and just sheer like almost bottomless self-hatred. Um, because it's been so long that the real reasons, the like true story is like nothing more than like bitterness and resentment, but the like memory itself has been eroded away in the process of the corruption.
Yeah.
So it's just now it's just anger and pain and motion without the source has been gone forever. That's you know that moment has been over forever, but it just lives on until people decide to like let let it finally be at rest. Let something that happened finally unhappen because it unhappened a long time ago. You know, I talk to people a lot about how like there's too much misunderstanding and duality between like even indigenous people because it's like for us to understand what indigenous means and what life before borders meant, it's literally needing to recognize that like modern humans have like evolved out of Africa. You know, like there is a land that exists before borders. And
Mm-hmm.
so and it's so wild, like you can see how deep the anti-blackness in the world runs because nobody wants to consider the central, literally like the central area of
Well,
like the
isn't it
earth
like the
to
ultimate
be like
self-hatred?
the central people
Yeah.
of our lineage and ancestry as a species. It's yeah, it's really depressing. um
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like the most ultimate self-hatred. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I've like, and it exists with a lot of like American Indians too. I don't know, there's like no room for black people to be the indigenous people that they are, but also the indigenous ancestors that they are.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's something that bothered me a lot that I noticed when like I've seen different elders of different tribal communities talk about like, you know, we never had an MLK. And it's just like, MLK was ours. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we didn't live the black experience that MLK lived, but like underneath the social constructs of it all, like we come from the indigenous legacy that MLK is already a direct descendant of. You know,
Yeah.
so it's weird for people to not see that, you
Yeah.
know. Like we
Yeah.
did already have an indigenous president now. We did have an indigenous first lady and first family. We've had a lot of these things, but because we don't want to accept black people in any community,
Mm-hmm.
and the root community being indigenous community and black people being the root indigenous people, it's very interesting to never be allowed room in the world that came from you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I mean, there's so much. I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up with my fair amount of like, the one side of the family that had more olive skin and more kink in the hair obviously was the more racist one. And it's just like, it's sad, that level of self-hatred, or like, the conversations of like, Afro Latinos, where it's like, well, you could be a Latino and you could be black. Like they're not, you could be both things. And it's such a, like, I don't, like, sometimes I don't get it, but I also understand, the privilege that I have, for my pinky white skin,
Mhm.
that I move in the world in a very specific way because of it. I also do recognize how different I sometimes get treated once they hear that my name is, well, my name, I don't use it on here. um and well, actually, you'll never find me because I'm named after somebody, and actually I'm very honored because she is somebody who fought for the rights of Afro-Latina women, who is Mariana Grajales, from Cuba. So yeah, if you look me up, all you find is her. But I was named after a super badass, and so
Right.
I recognize that, and I carry that with me, and I hold a lot of value with that.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's, I guess that's what's hard for a lot of people to accept is because their understandings of culture and community are even so colonized, right? So like, and that's why that fragmentation of like the lineage and like the literal scientific fucking evidence that like everybody comes from Africa. And I'm just like, it's not weird, you know? And we have to stop thinking of like these other communities beyond what is now Africa as like literally everything is Africa when you think about it. Because like if we came out of Africa as modern humans and there was a time before no borders were ever established, like technically everything is all African. You know what I mean? Like or at least like not even using that word, but everything is still all a part of that original land. And like the islands, the other continents, because we're human and we love to base things off of ourself and our origins and where we started on the map, everything is technically supposed to be centered around the African root of origin for all human beings. Like, yeah, a lot of us don't live Black experiences, but the fact that a Black experience was constructed socially by insecure white people who are also not white people, they just gave themselves a color-coded status, you know, and assigned color-coded statuses to everybody else that are not true when you apply those color-coded statuses to the actual color of your skin. And they're not biologically significant characteristics anyway, because melanin is just melanin. So whether you have less or more, you're not more or less human or different human because of it. You're literally the same fucking person. And it's definitely not to say any of this to discount the culture that has been owned and created, and we need to like still protect and preserve and honor this language, this culture that has been birthed in a countering position to the colonizers' language and cultures. But at the same time, like, we don't have to identify with the identifiers that have been forced upon us either. So that's why I tell people, like, you know, identify how you do, but you need to just recognize that the Black people at the table are your indigenous representation. You know, like, you have to be, and that is something that like a lot of colonized like tribal leadership will, I don't know if they'll wrap their head around that before they are on to the next road.
I
know there's adults in my family who are now gone who would not have been able to wrap their mind around that, but like they would have, but nobody wants to talk about it. Like, I'm the only person in my tribe talking about these things. I'm also like one of the handful, if that, of people that have moved off the reservation. And like, I have a spiritual tie to the land that my people come from, but at the same time, I have like a spiritual obligation to the rest of the earth. You know what I mean? And it's hard to kind of change a narrative that's been forced on you about how you don't exist. And I've met people in California who have been like, they didn't know what a reservation was, or they've told me they thought all the Native Americans were dead already. Like, so like, as I exist and breathe and am in front of somebody, I've had people be like, you're not. You know,
I was gonna say, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I do appreciate how much girl talk has become political, but you know, your existence is political.
It very much is. I mean, because when you think about it, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead. I'm like, there was no room for myself. Like, that's why when people complain about the problems happening in the country, I'm like, these aren't seen as problems by the establishment. This is another milestone. This is another marker on the road for like how far we've progressed so far in these certain areas. And even though on the surface a lot of these things have been like made illegal or made to seem immoral, a lot of the way the country is run is still based off of white supremacy, anti-blackness, and anti-indigeneity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, that's why I tell people stop trying to argue logic and stop trying to negotiate with somebody who is actively killing you right now. Like, if a serial killer breaks into your house, are you like, how are you gonna gag when they're stabbing you multiple times? Like, you're not gonna be like, you know what, you
You
made a
could
good
put it
point.
that
Let me
way.
pull this knife out of your heart, and actually, I changed my mind. Let me go be on my way now. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't think of it that way. Like, it's the dumbest thing in the world. It's just like they are doing the thing that you're saying to stop doing. So for them to be at that point, don't you think that might have ran through their head already?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The choice that they're making is in front of you, having been made already.
Yes.
What do you do next?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing to people. I know a lot of people get upset with like people that make like monarchy references or whatever, but I really don't care. Because I'm like, monarchy isn't even specific to white people. Like, white people just chose to fucking suck. Like, whether it was the kings, and it's none of that either. Like, we're talking about things on a case by case basis, but why I say that is because I tell people, like, you know, you are the person that's in charge of your queendom, you know? So, like, queen mentality is like accepting what is happening as it's happening, not sitting and gagging and feeling like flabbergasted that like what is going on right then is actually happening. You know,
Exactly.
it's like accept what is going on and now move on to the next step immediately, which is what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, and we're living
there's
in
no
a
way to
country.
lead yourself forward if you're just stuck in place, like
Yeah.
in shock, like, oh my God, this happened. Like, yes, it did. You just experienced it happening. Now let's collect ourselves and do something about it.
Yes, and so it's so interesting to me when we live in a country and in a society where such a high percentage of this country is following a doctrine that values property and money more than people, like period. And
Well,
then
because
they're
they come
upset.
from the doctrine of people themselves are property, and not even
Exactly.
just like from like the slavery point of view, but like misogyny is an extension of that. Like, women are property, colored people are property,
Exactly.
kids are definitely treated like property. It's disgusting.
But then they're
Yeah,
surprised when the system isn't looking out for them either.
that's the thing, is like people don't exist in this society. There only is property and property owners.
Yeah.
And so those who are deemed worth, those who are deemed the owners of life itself are the ones that own everything. And we can say things are illegal on paper, but like people own prisons where labor is free. People own, you know, these like people have like share like in things that never reach the world. Like, there's a reason why these sex trafficking rings and things have never, they're never eradicated, because they're just a part of like the normalized culture of like life is property,
Yeah.
and there are those who deserve to have, period,
Yeah.
and those that deserve to be halved,
Yeah.
to be owned. They
Yeah.
are property. They aren't anything. They're nobody.
Yeah.
I'm nobody. I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a gag that you and I are here having this conversation in 2020, because things have severely gone off course in some direction. That's why, like, I tell people, for the most part, things are running completely the way they are supposed to. What the things that aren't going according to plan isn't what everyone is arguing over in the politics in all of this, but it's the fact that we exist and are experiencing and perceiving and participating in the system to begin with. Like we're just supposed to be an object in the system. We're not supposed to be able to think and like activate and mobilize within the system. Like,
yeah, it's one of the reasons why. So like, I've lived in the Bay Area since 1995. My mom came out as part of the digital gold rush. She was one of the first dot-commers way back in the day. I remember being 16 and answering the house phone, latinolink.com. This is Mariana, how can I help you? And along the way, I've literally started from the bottom, and now I'm here, working 2-3 jobs just to pay the rent in a shared house with 5 people. And little by little got myself to a point where, my last job, and I usually don't say the current company that I ever worked for just for the sake of like, privacy or whatnot. But like the last company I worked for was Uber, right? And I remember when I got that offer, I had to have a moment with myself of like, okay, do we rage against the machine from the outside, or do we rage against the machine from the inside? And then soak in some of those resources that this company is allowing me to, by this handsome paycheck that like this inflated Bay Area economy has created. And then I go and distribute it as much as possible wherever I can to my people, and that's why like in the beginning of quarantine, I was able to support digital drag shows until I got laid off. And now I work for another tech company that not everybody loves, but I am again raging from inside of the machine, and like it allows me the freedom to be independent. RGB, rest in power. Like, thanks to her, I can have my own bank account. Thanks to her, I can have my own credit card. Thanks to her, I can have my own apartment. Like, this was not even a possibility, however many years ago. But I struggle sometimes with like, the como se dice, privilege, that I have, and like the privileged position that I'm in. But that's why I try to put in as much of my energy outside of work into projects like this, and into helping amplify voices and donate to causes. I was on Twitter last night. I started following this woman who was on the news maybe 2 months ago. One of these teachers that are speaking out about the system and out in the protests, and I started following her. And I've noticed her journey in the last few weeks, that she was applying for jobs and she was really nervous. And so I'm like, giving her, the flowers and like the encouragement and like, you got this, you got this. And so then yesterday she tweets, I got 2 job offers. I'm taking them both. I'd love to celebrate with my son. Help your girl out. And so then I see people under it like, oh, congratulations, congratulations. And I'm like, how can we help? And she's like, oh, I'd love to take my son out for dinner. And I was like, you got a Cash App? Oh, look, I see it in your link. Boom, here's some money. Take your son out to dinner. Right. And then another girl, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I have a $13 phone bill if you could help. And then I go to her timeline and I see her begging for $2-3 at a time. So I sent her $20 and I said, here, check your Cash App. Like, you got it. And she's like tweeting me like, I'm crying right now. I've never felt this way from a stranger. Like, I don't thank you so much. I'm gonna listen to your podcast, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not even why I do it. And what I told her was, I was in a position years ago where I did things that I sometimes wish I didn't have to survive. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in a position where I don't have to do those things. And if I can help somebody else out so that maybe they don't have to make choices that stick with them for a long time like they have with me, then right. Like, that's the least that I can do. And so like, that's right. Me raging from inside of the machine. You know what I mean?
I think what's really important that I think we've highlighted a lot on Girl Talk, and in our own individual conversations with each other in the house and with people we don't live with, is just the understanding that regardless of your position, and that's not work related, right? It's just your position in the world, in society, knowing how to build that interdependent just very like crucial community grid foundation. um, there 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 doesn't really need to be a choice of like, am I inside the system or not? Because for one, everyone is, right?
Mhm.
Everyone is, even the people who we see day to day try to present themselves as superior to us. The fact that they're even in proximity to us, even if we can only see them, just proves that they're not actually all the way up there at the top the way that they think they do. And that they, regardless of how many coins they have in their account next to ours, they're just as much a tool of capitalism and not an actual capitalist. Because it goes back to, I guess, what I was saying earlier, when it's like there's literally only the owners and the owned. There's no, all these subclasses of economic status aren't real. There's
Yeah.
literally, it's always been the whole 1% versus everybody else. And yeah, there are people in a more privileged position to where they don't feel as motivated to change a world that is already working for them. Um, but it's kind of what we've brought up when it comes to like what you just said, you know. We have done things with our extra income, our disposable income, our just, even if it's just a couple dollars that we have left available that isn't designated to anything that we've, you know, already accounted for. um, it's crazy that this money that we're in direct control of, we're able to redirect it wherever it's needed automatically. Similar to how like the body itself signals, you know, pain and urgency, for the body to bring needed resources to wherever the site of injury or wherever is, you know. So seeing people be honest about their situation as much as they can, even if it's just not a story, but just, I need help and
Yeah.
I cannot tell people why, and I can't even tell people who I am, but these are my intersections, this is my handle, and please help me, you know. Like, the fact that people can just automatically choose to put that dollar or more into somebody's like direct hand,
Yeah.
it means so much, because the government has never made anybody feel like that once.
Yeah.
And for us to have received $1,200 in 6 months is just like so silly.
Of our own money. Of our own
Right. And that's
goddamn
why
money.
it's very interesting to see like how much of our money is in taxes that has never come back, because taxes has been sold to us as an investment with paid return. You know, never ever seen it. Never seen it. And right now, when everything that we are told is that that rainy day that taxes are supposed to be going towards, you know, well, if things ever get bad, everything possible right now is going bad, and none of the money that any of us have paid is accountable. Like,
Nope.
it's nowhere to be found.
It's all
And
going to their
so,
friends and lining up their pockets and lining up their jets.
and 200,000 people dead in our country alone.
Oh my
So,
God.
all because something where we held up our end of the bargain, which we didn't even get to negotiate. It was literally forced upon us while in like, you know, federal law documents being like, you can't tax. And then it's like, here we are taxed. And then nothing that we're taxed for is ever available. You know, how are we dealing with like the biggest unemployment crisis since the Big Depression, and yet we're so much more like developed and have so much more like wealth and money than we did at that time? It doesn't make any sense unless
Yeah.
somebody is like taking something for themselves, whether it's illegal or not. The resources are not there anymore.
Well, when you got
So
a con
just
man running the show.
I mean, that's the thing is like he's kind of just like a summation of everything that has snowballed into 2020, you know, into 2016 election that has led us to now. Um, it's hard to get mad at somebody who is just like he is the perfect mascot for
Yeah.
all of this.
Oh yeah.
People are very like things went like this when so and so was, and it's like yes, they
Yeah, they
were.
were. They were just
That
better
was
at
just like
hiding
it was a few steps before the step we're at, but there's a reason why that was a step too.
it.
Like
Mhm.
there's a chronological order to these things. Like there's a reason why they are happening in this order. You know, like
Mhm.
everything is going according to plan, you know, and it's unfortunate that people are finally starting to understand that they were never a priority to begin with,
Yeah.
even if that was in the job description of these offices that they're trying to vote people into.
Yeah.
um, and I support voting, but it's hard to support the voting system when it's given us a President Trump, even when 3 million people felt differently about who was supposed to be president that day.
Yeah, I mean, there's Rigamorous Von T definitely enters the chat quite a bit, but you know, hopefully something turns around because, man, it's like it's getting a little scary out there. Um, I could seriously like talk to you about this stuff for like hours and hours and hours and hours. But so this show is like half interview, half silliness. So we're gonna like I feel like there's no easy way to go from like such deep topics to like the absolute silliness we're gonna get into. But I was like, let's just do it.
Well, yes. Let's have a little bit more lightheartedness now.
So we're gonna play a good old Kiki Kai Kai pill. I don't like to kill anybody. We just give them a nice little sleeping pill so they can chill out.
Wait, what is it? It's what? It's
Basically,
Kiki, Kai Kai, and Kill?
was pill because we don't want to kill
Oh,
anybody.
Pill. I was like, that's not the greatest acronym at the end of the day.
Well, you know, it's like obviously what is it like kill, marry, whatever the fuck.
Oh no, I know. Okay, so we're doing Kiki, Kai Kai, and Pill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have different categories. So our first category in Kiki, Kai Kai, Pill, Drag Race winners. We have Miss Jada Essence Hall, Bob the Drag Queen, and Sasha Velour. Kiki, Kai Kai, Pill.
I think I would Kiki with Bob. I think I'd be fine Kai Kaiing with what's her name again? The one that just won.
Jada.
Beta Essence Hall. She's fab.
Yes.
Um, and I would probably kill Sasha Fierce. Oh wait, I would pill them.
Yeah. We give Sasha a nice little pill, and then we can take
Yeah,
over her show. are
yeah.
you are you watching the Vegas review Drag Race spinoff?
I have not watched it so far. My roommates have watched it a couple times, but it wasn't when I was here, so I've missed out.
AKA Love and Hip Pads, which is what I call it.
I'm gagging. I mean, I basically heard that's the show. So yeah.
So we have two tiers of Vegas category. So our first Vegas tier, we're gonna have Naomi Smalls, Derek Barry, or Asia O'Hara. Kiki, Kai Kai, Pill.
Okay, wait. Say the names
So we're
one
gonna
more
have
time.
Naomi Smalls, who is Talls,
Okay.
Derek,
I know
Brittany
the girls.
Barry, and Asia O'Hara.
Oh, okay. So I would. I know who I'm pilling. I'm pilling Derek Barry, like for sure. But I'm just
Derek will
like
never come on this show.
I feel like most people probably have like like already they're like I'm going to Kai Kai Naomi Smalls, and I'm like I don't know. Something tells me it might be kind of boring.
A little dead
You
fish.
know, people are pretty, but it's like you're probably not fun to have sex with. And I don't know. So maybe I would Kiki with Naomi Smalls. I feel like, what was the other drag queen's name again?
Asia O'Hara.
I feel like Asia would be, I don't know, those eyes, something about those eyes make me feel like something new. She would teach me something new. I would kai with Asia O'Hara.
Our second Vegas tier, Cameron Michaels, Evie Oddly, and Vanessa Vanjie Mateo. Kiki, Kai Pill.
Wait, who is the middle one again? So there's
Evie.
Cameron, there's
Evie Oddly.
oh, I never watched that season, but I know what she looks like, and I know she
Well,
she looks like my ex. I might have to kill her. I mean, pill her.
Well, I've heard that Evie is
What does that mean?
packing.
Oh, I don't really
unfurling the arm.
I feel like, I think I'm gonna pill Evie.
You just want to kill those bitches.
And then there's Cameron and who?
Vanessa Vanjie Mateo. Vanessa.
I think I would Kiki with Vanessa. I think I would actually Kai with Cameron.
Yeah.
I feel like something about those big old lips. I'm just like, and they're also quieter, and something about like quiet, moody sex is more interesting than like, I feel like Vanessa would just be like loud. Like, could you imagine her just being like Miss Vanjie and just like louder and faster and more frequently? As like, I could not. I'm sorry. Whoever has the patience and is attracted and gets wet by all that, by any means, sure. Not Kakai. No.
We have two more categories. We have our Oaklash category for Kiki Kai Pill. We have Mama Celeste, Beatrix Lahane, and Bitch Puddin', who kicked off the weekend.
Oh no, this is fucked up.
I'm not that innocent.
I'm like, can we go back to people that I don't know personally?
I love the next category.
Who would I don't really know. I think I'm gonna pill bitch.
Okay.
Pill bitch. I'm going to Kiki with Mama Celeste, and Beatrix is a little freak, so it's a little weird to think of your friends and sisters in such a way, but I feel like it would be fun. So that's the main reason for why I pick anyone in that category. I'm like, would it be worth the awkward moment later?
Well, you're gonna love this final category.
We'll see.
You're gonna love this final category. I'm calling it the Twitch category, which is the Streamworks Queens, Mary Vice versus Kenosha and Cash Monet.
I think I already know, so it's fun. Because I feel like I talk about these things regularly in that house. But I would Kiki with Mary. I'd probably kill my sister Clark. And I would totally Kai with Cash. Cash is one of the coolest people ever. And I'm also like, I'm attracted to like other like brown and black people, so
yes,
that tends to be a thing for me.
I can relate.
Cameron McMichaels won apparently though against the other two earlier, but I'm just like, give me some interesting choices with Vanessa Vanjie and fucking Evie Oddly. I'm just like, I might choose the white girl in this thing.
So watch Cameron have a little something in there, and that's why ultimately you were also drawn.
She's awesome. She's like, I like that she's a muscly femme. I think that's really cool.
With all the tattoos.
Some of my favorite people in ballroom, they just like on the street, they just look like basketball player, tall, muscle men. But then you see them in a ballroom setting and they're like the mother of their houses, and they're like teaching the kids how to vogue and how to walk, like with all this like sass and fabness. So like, I don't know, something about that. People who are just like really weird or really loud, I'm like, I'm already weird and loud. Like I I want somebody quiet that's like mysterious. Somebody that gets me to be quiet because I'm so like trying to figure them out. I'm not gonna be trying to figure out Evie Adley and Vanessa Vanjie.
Well, I love it. You made it through Kiki, Kai Kai Pill. So rounding out our show, I have what I call speed round. It's the same questions for every performer, but along the way they get tailored. They were originally tailored for drag performers, but I think it's interesting. You know, I've applied it to podcasters, and now you consider yourself more of like a ballroom performer, not like a drag performer, right? Or am I wrong?
I mean, I literally I'm an outspoken stripper. That's literally
Perfect.
that's it. Those are my two gigs all in one title. I talk and I get naked, and
All
people
right.
give me money for those things.
We're gonna apply these to you. How long does it take you to get into the gig / lyric?
Today was great. I love a nice like 3 hour moment. I like to have like, I think I take the longest on my complexion before I do my eyes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll like use my little yeah, like 3 hours.
You like feeling the fantasy.
I'd like to take like 2.5 hours to do my makeup, and then I like to have a little time to stylize my actual outfit. So
Nice.
my face is what takes long. It's nothing else actually takes that amount of time.
Tips for fans.
Tips for fans. Like a tip that I have for fans.
Yeah, like what should they have in mind when they're engaging with you as a fan?
I think something to always keep in mind is, I mean, this is kind of going off of like the experiences of how things were before.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little impossible to do these things that I'm about to say, but my two biggest things were throw your money at me, throw it at the stage, but don't hold it out expecting me to like deviate from my number for you unless I've already worked that into things. And don't touch unless you've been given a clear vocal cue or something very like indicative that this is okay. Like if I go up to somebody who is like, you know, touched me and I'm dancing on them now, it's like, it's a part of my number. We've had this moment, but I've had people literally just like come up to me while performing and start dancing with me or like trying to grab me. And I'm like, this is not planned. This is not a part of my number. This is not cute.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are literally getting the fuck in the way of myself and my money. So, and yeah, that's where my
sir, ma'am, sir,
comes
stop.
out. I'm like, I'm all ass until I'm all sass, girl. I swear.
Okay. Tips for a baby performer.
Go with your first instinct more often. And take your time and let yourself sharpen everything. Yeah, those three things. I think sometimes when you're starting things out, it's very easy to like second guess or give yourself too many options and too many edits.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need to commit to whatever the concept is that you have at hand. It might be simple, maybe it's complex, whatever it is, just go for it, you know? And when you're doing it, take your time and make it count.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes sense. Favorite drag race queen?
Who is my favorite drag race queen? Oh my god, I know she's problematic to a lot of people, but I really like Tyra Sanchez.
Okay.
I know that she ruffled a lot of feathers and she said some things that are really intense to really take back, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to be in that specific platform spotlight with all of like, it feels kind of draconian with the way things are run with the
It's the
girls.
Thunderdome.
It's, yeah, and I don't know. I feel like I really appreciated like the Vixen, um, and I do like I like a lot of the girls on the show. I really liked Tyra because it was just one of those moments of like, regardless of who this person is to people or how they've received them in or out, like this was like a talented person. So it was just really cool to see somebody who like nobody could like take that away from her, regardless of what happened after that. Um, she was is very like everything was done on her terms, and she, even though she might have burnt all her bridges, I really respected the outspokenness, and the willingness to be herself, even if it's very integrity based, even if a lot of people try like clowning on her or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still sucking Rue's dick, and I think she's probably the only one that didn't.
Yeah.
Fifi O'Hara too, I guess. And that's the thing, is like they weren't the nicest people, but I mean, like, we're talking about queens, you know what I mean? So everyone rules their queendom differently.
Yes. And
And
I think people
I found
forget that
those,
along the way.
yeah. I admire a lot of people for different reasons, but something that stuck out about everybody that's been on that show was, yeah, if what you were saying were to actually cost you everything, would you still say it? And to see people who were still willing to be honest about that, even if it was problematic in different ways, like I don't know, I was able to respect that.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Favorite non-drag race queen?
is this like in drag or?
You take it however you want.
Hmm. I feel like my favorite performer, who isn't a drag queen, they're an iconic Vogue femme pioneer of the category.
Hmm.
Um, the icon Sanaya Alaya. Formerly, a lot of people know her as Sanaya Ebony, but she started her own house. Um, so yeah, Sanaya, I would say Sanaya. You know, I love everything that she does.
Hmm.
She's, yeah, the mother of sexy. The way she vogues is just, it's like the blueprint for like pretty much everyone that vogues nowadays.
Hmm.
Like if you vogue femme, your movement is like rooted in Sinai. And she still does stuff. She still does music videos. She still comes out with music. She throws balls. She walks at events still. Like she's one of those people who will be on the floor and in the community until the day, you know, spirit takes her home.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think she's great. She's also like a Taurus, and I love other earth signs. So yeah, I would definitely. She's been like turning crowds for like decades. I'm just like,
Nice.
you know what I mean? Like, it's cool when people can do performances just walking down the street and also throw an entire big ass, like thousands of people in attendance ball
Hmm.
where like they're still the star. So I don't know. People like that really, really motivate myself. So yeah.
Nice. What is a tip or something that you've learned as a performer that the quote unquote everyday person can apply to their life?
Um, Confidence is a muscle, and it doesn't ever, like every other muscle, like you have to engage it, exercise with it, practice with it. Nothing is just already there. Like you have to develop things. I think a lot of people see me as an entertainer, a performer, public entity of some sort, and just assume that like I am just one of those people that just know, like I just have a thing that I turn on and it just works. Um, Regardless of like the gifts and talents and abilities that I've developed or that I've been given in my lifetime, none of it ever was activated or actualized or expressed without the confidence. You have to just tell yourself until it feels, until it's just permanent, really. You know, like I really don't know how else to put that one.
No, makes total sense. Favorite song to perform to?
Oh, Cognac Queen by Megan Thee Stallion.
Ooh, good one. Final question. Best tip/gift from a fan?
Tip/gift from a fan. You know, when I've been on some of the judging panels here in the Bay, sometimes you have to give judges gifts for for the category that you're walking in. But I don't know. Tip or gift from a fan.
You know, because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you know, somebody like reached over and handed me like $100 bill, or you know, or like, oh, somebody, you know, came to a show and like gave me like a painting, and so like those have been some of the ones that like.
I think my favorite like crowd or audience or whatever that just like showed me love the whole time I was performing was I was booked with my burlesque friends who all performed different things for a wedding for one of the like queer bartenders out here, one of the queer bars here in SF. And I did Kevin Aviance's version of
Ooh.
Dindada. And we were in the green room at the War Memorial Building here in SF, which is just huge ceiling, balcony right there. Everything's just made out of like white stone, and it was beautiful. Like I had so much fun when I saw like the video after. I was just like, wow, this is very music video quality. But people just were, I got so much money, you know. And at first I was like, oh, you know, it's a wedding, you know, I'm sure they brought money to tip out all the performers, but the that's not what happened. I made a lot of money, and it was such a noticeable difference that the one of the grooms was like came back into the green room and told all the other performers that they would match the tips that I had gotten for the rest of the performers. So I set the booking fee for everyone basically. So that was really nice. That felt nice. You know, I love doing what we do in bars and like at our little Kiki functions, whether they're like renegades, raves, whatever, but to do something like formal but still like with such a like queer group of people, yeah, it was fun. And to just let my like talent and performance speak for itself, yeah, that was such a cute tip out moment.
Yes, and we stand Kevin Aviance in this house, so that's a great musical choice.
The icon,
Yes. Well, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. Like I said, I could just talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I can't wait till like I can like hug you in person and like you know, we can all hang out and stuff. But for now, we will let the children know where they can find you on the social medias.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Sissy Slays, SISSYSLAYS, Sissy Slays, all one word, all one cunt. That is me, the Indigecunt. Right now, that's my primary social media. I do have Facebook. I'm not on there as much, and the more interesting content that I play around with isn't on there. So yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Sissy Slays. Also, all one word. Yeah, I also a regular co-host for Girl Talk every Friday at 3 p.m. on twitch.tv/CashMonetDrag. We've wanting to be having you on the show next. So if you're free 2 Fridays from now, that would be great to have you.
Done.
Yeah, we have Erica Kane coming next week, so that'll be great to have her. Legendary beat DJ, West Coast music. So yeah, I guess that's me. I do lots of things. So whether it's dancing, speaking on community discussion panels. My first gig was like spoken word poetry in the Castro each month. So I do lots of things. So hit me up, and yeah, let's work on something.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And this is when we tell everybody goodbye. Take care of yourselves. And like I've been saying on Fortunate Rants and now here on Series of Fortunate Events, not telling you who to vote for, but God damn it, vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Sissy.